So you're juggling work, looking after the kids, and living up to everyone else's expectations, all while trying to carve out a sliver of time for yourself. And somewhere in the middle of it all, you start to think something's not quite right. You start to feel off, not quite yourself, like something's missing. But you can't quite put your finger on why. And that's when your brain kicks in with a plan. It says, okay, let's figure this out. So you think, and you think, and you think some more. And then you grab your journal, you start to make plans, you start to make lists, and you try to problem solve your way into feeling better. Because we often think that's the key to success, simply thinking harder. We believe that if we just put a little more effort into our thoughts, we'll come up with a perfect answer. But instead of finding that perfect answer, that perfect solution, you just end up feeling more stuck, more confused, more frustrated. And that's because overthinking is the thing that's usually getting in the way of clarity. Because think about it, the harder you try to think your way through things, the more overwhelmed you often get, making it harder to see the solutions that might be right there in front of you. And this is because the mind can only work with what the brain already knows. It replays the same loops, the same ideas, the same beliefs, many of which were probably never truly yours to begin with. So when you try to logic your way into something new, something aligned, something deeper, it rarely lands. Because you end up circling back to the same starting point because you've gone through those same loops of beliefs, of ideas that the mind already knows. And that's why true clarity doesn't often come from forcing it. It often sneaks up on you when you stop trying to figure everything out. You've probably experienced this, that it shows up in the quiet moments, like when you're washing the dishes, or when you're taking a walk, or even when you just sit still long enough to actually hear yourself, which, let's face it, is a real luxury in this day and age where we're always expected to be switched on, and where most of us are conditioned to push through discomfort, to strategize, to problem solve, to make sense of everything. But not everything can be solved with logic. Some things require softness, space, time. With the women I work with, I see this all the time. Capable, intelligent, high-functioning individuals who feel completely disconnected. And what's their instinct? It's to double down, to push harder. And I get it, because that was me through my legal training and all my years in the city. I really believed that doubling down and pushing harder was the way to get results. But the turning point isn't always in effort. Sometimes it's in permission. Permission to pause, to feel, and to not have everything figured out right away. So here's a gentle shift to consider, and it's something we explore early on in my Purposeful Path course, and it's this. Instead of asking yourself, what should I do? Try asking, what truly matters to me here? And it's such a small change, but it makes a world of difference, because should, in what should I do, keeps you spinning an obligation. But when you ask yourself what matters to me, it pulls you back into your center. It reconnects you with your values, your truth, and your own individual rhythm. And from that space, you're not overthinking, you're choosing. So if you're feeling lost, a little bit numb, like life has been running on low volume, start by giving yourself permission to stop trying to fix it. So maybe that means turning your laptop off early today, or going and sitting outside in the sunshine, but without headphones or a book or other stimulus. And start to ask yourself, what matters to me in this moment? And it doesn't have to be what's going to matter to me forever. What matters to me just now in this moment? You might not get an answer right away, and that's absolutely fine. That's okay, because you've probably spent years and years being tuned into everything else but yourself, like we've just spoken about, with having to be switched on all the time. And change doesn't happen overnight, and clarity doesn't always come easily. I know that, unfortunately. But each small moment you take to listen to yourself is a step closer to finding your way back to yourself. So let today be a beginning, a quiet promise to show up for yourself, even in the teeny tiniest, smallest of ways, because you don't need to have all the answers right away. Trust that they'll come to you when you're ready. And in the meantime, just keep returning to that question again and again. What matters to me right here, right now? That's where the healing begins. And that's where you'll find your way back to you. So if you found this interesting, then hit subscribe, and I look forward to seeing you again soon.